Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. This episode, I'm going to talk about some newer comics, specifically from DC Comics. So this is my first impressions for these new titles. About half of which I have read just the first issues. A couple other titles I have, or a few more titles anyway, I have read more than the first issue. Regardless, there are a bunch of new things to talk about.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Dr. Fate #1. This is by Paul Levitz and Sonny Liu. It says here storytellers. Lee Lockridge doing the colors. Nick Napolitano is the letterer. So this is the new Dr. Fate. I presume this Dr. Fate is the Earth 1 Prime? Whatever, New Earth? I can't keep the Earth straight anymore. Anyway, I presume this is the Dr. Fate for the Earth in which most of the DC titles, superhero titles, reside. Which is kind of confusing because we had Dr. Fate in the Earth 2 title, and although I don't remember what happened with him, it seems to me that it might be a little confusing to new readers if we have two Dr. Fates in the books, although I don't recall seeing Dr. Fate in the newest Earth 2 book, Earth 2 Society, so I suspect that perhaps the good doctor of that Earth may have met his demise, perhaps. I read all of Earth 2 and I read Convergence. I don't remember what happened with him. Although all I do know is that I did like that new Dr. Fate, especially the way he looked. That was a really cool costume design. Not so much with this guy, the new Dr. Fate, but I assume that will change over time. Anyway, Dr. Fate #1 is a pretty thin plot line, if you will. Basically, on page 2, we get the main character, who is Khalid. He's in the Brooklyn Museum, and I don't know my Egyptian mythology very well. It's a cat lady. I don't remember if she was actually named in here or not. Anyway, she is handing Khalid the helmet of fate, saying that he must accept his fate. Of course, he runs away. And then the next few pages is basically this cat god chasing after Khalid, trying to convince him to accept the helmet, which he does eventually, of course. And then there's Anubis running around talking about how he's going to destroy everything, or at least he is going to enjoy everybody who dies from this flood that's happening as they fill up the world of the dead, I suppose. And then the story closes with Khalid's father, who's a doctor himself. Oh, I forgot to mention that Khalid is going to start medical school very soon. Next Tuesday in the book. Anyway, his father, who is a doctor, but he cannot practice in America, so he drives a cab. He gets into a car wreck at the very end and is in a bit of trouble with some bad spirits. So I originally got this title because Dr. Fate is actually one of the characters in the DC universe that I really like. It seems like whenever DC has strayed away from the core of the character, it never quite works out. And while this new take is okay, I think I preferred the Earth 2 version much better, although we didn't get to see a whole lot of him and what that character was all about before this happened, before this new Dr. Fate. I do like the ties of the character to Egypt, given Dr. Fate's connections there. But I have to say, my first impression of this title, based on issue number 1, is that the story seems pretty lacking. So I'm hoping the next few issues will pick up the pace, as it were, get me interested in this story, these characters. I'm not quite there yet. Martian Manhunter number 1. This is by Rob Williams as the writer. Eddie Barrows is doing pencils. Eber Ferreira doing the inks. Gabe Atelb is a colorist. Tom Napolitano is the letterer. Hey, there you go. That's 2 books. Okay. Looks like Dan Panosian did the main cover here. Like Dr. Fate, Martian Manhunter is one of my favorite characters in the DC Comics. I especially like him as the linchpin of the Justice League, which he was for so many years. And then the New 52 happened, and it was said that he was a member of the Justice League, there was some falling out that happened. I'm not entirely sure of the events of that. I did read the first 6 issues of Stormwatch, and the only reason I got those issues was because I knew that Martian Manhunter was part of that series. So if anything has been revealed since those 6 issues and now, I am not aware of any filling in of history for this character. I did read him in the Justice League of America and Justice League United series, but there wasn't a whole lot of backstory given to the character in those books. However, it looks like we're going to get a little bit of that in his new series. The book starts off with this interesting character called Mr. Biscuits, which is just this, it appears to be this really tall, thin-looking creature whose face is mostly covered, but he sits in this, it looks like a lobby to an apartment building, I guess. Anyway, he sits on this chair, and these kids come in trying to, find out more about him. And this little girl goes in and says, she's just trying to prove to her friends that this is just an adult who, just a weird adult. Anyway, she takes this bag of, I think it's cookies or biscuits, and gives them to the guy, which he accepts. Oh, and he has this sign on him as he's sleeping in this lobby. It says, Mr. Biscuits, only wake in case of emergency. So that's kind of odd. Anyway, the kids wake him up, and he takes the biscuits or cookies or whatever they are, and he pulls a coin out from behind the little girl's ear, a little magic trick. And then she asks him, "Are you good?" And he says, "I don't know." I have to mention, though, when I first read this, I thought perhaps that Mr. Biscuits was another alias or something like that of the Martian Manhunter, because he's green skinned, he's got red eyes, and kind of buggy eyes, kind of like a frog, sort of. Anyway, he has a lizard-like appearance, even though you really can't see most of his face. Anyway, then you go into the next few pages, and here is Martian Manhunter saving a plane, but he starts off with this telepathic plea or broadcast talking about these terrorist atrocities occurring in the cities and homes. He says, "The epiphany is here. Save as many souls as you can. I beg you." And so then he proceeds to save this airplane, and in doing so, he encounters one of the passengers whom he put all the passengers to sleep to help keep everything calm using his telepathy. And as he's trying to figure out how best to save the plane, one of the passengers turns to him and says, "We need you, John, to turn." I said John. It should be Jean. That's the pronunciation of his first name that I prefer from the Justice League animated series. But I know a lot of people just call him John Jones. I prefer Jean. Anyway, we need you to turn this planet red. The epiphany has begun. So there's that epiphany again. And so here's the backstory that I was talking about that I did not get before. So John even tells us in his dialogue or his monologue boxes here, "I was created as a weapon of mass destruction and sent here to fool and befriend humanity." So I presume that's why there was a rift between him and the Justice League in the past. "I was made to conquer this planet, ready for invasion. I am not a superhero. I am Martian." But he does save everybody on the plane. There's a short scene with the Justice League. Looks and I like this because it looks like it reflects what's happening in the Justice Leaguer's own books, because Superman has his T-shirt on. Cyborg is the slim down version that I've been seeing from his book, although I haven't read it yet. Anyway, Cyborg is pointing at a screen and he says it's everywhere. Terrorist attacks, war zones erupting. Call everyone, he says. So this big thing is happening. And then we cut to a scene in Dubai where this thief, this woman is waiting to break into this very high up apartment, and then sees the person, I presume the person that she's going to be stealing from, gets murdered in front of her. Blood covers the window, and then this white Martian looking, if you're familiar with the Martian Manhunter's history, there's the green Martians and the white Martians. And to me, it looks like a white Martian. And the white Martian just quickly wipes the blood away from the window and has his red eyes looking at her saying, "I can see you out there, and I know who you really are. So if you do want to play this game, run for your lives." And she does. She's running on the ledge of this building. But I'm sure we'll get more of her as the series goes, which will be interesting. We're also introduced to an FBI agent, Agent Wessel, who's kind of an odd duck himself, but he is investigating the murder of this mother. There's a young boy who is in a wheelchair who admits that he killed his mother, but there's something off about him. He also says something about the epiphany, and then there's an explosion. And this is the interesting part. So then the kid whose eyes are glowing red in this one panel says, all those bad things, those bad things you see on the news each night, how you can't believe that any human could ever do them? Well, what if humans didn't do them? And so there you go. That sets up the adversarial challenge here for the Martian Manhunter. However, he does go to NASA headquarters at the end. This is in Florida, and he goes to Helen Demoff. They apparently know each other because she says, "Jean, what do you want?" And he says, "Help, I need you to kill me." And that's how the book ends. At least for Martian Manhunter's story. But then we go back to Mr. Biscuits, who is eating... It just shows him eating the biscuits from the little girl, and that's it. It's an odd scene considering the previous scene with Martian Manhunter. So and then the next issue promises the Martian Manhunter versus Superman. Okay, so I really enjoyed this for all the things that happened in it. So where Dr. Fate was really light on plot. We got a lot of plot here, a lot of progression, not a lot of answers, which is good because that just, you have the questions. So you want to read and find out more about what's going on and how Martian Manhunter is going to do this or that or accomplish what he wants. And why does he want this lady to kill him? And who's the girl in Dubai? What's the epiphany? How does Agent Wessel figure into this? So you got the beginnings of a cast of characters, a supporting cast in the book. Who's Mr. Biscuits, for that matter? It's like, what is this? It's very strange, but I'm really enjoying it, and I like the art too. And here we have a book that I really wasn't sure what to make of it when it was first announced. But because of what's in the title, I had to try it out anyway. This is We Are Robin. Lee Bermejo is doing the story. Jorge Corona is doing the art. Rob Haynes doing breakdowns. Trish Mulvihill doing colors. Carrie Randolph doing epilogue art, with Emilio Lopez doing epilogue colors. That's interesting. Jared Fletcher on letters, with Lee Bermejo doing the covers. So this comic opens with what's his name? Duke Thomas, whom I believe is from the Batman Eternal story. Batman saved him. If that's the character I'm thinking of, there is a reference in here in the footnotes referencing Batman Eternal. Anyway, it opens up with Duke getting his butt kicked by these kids because they think that he was trying to put the moves on one of those kids' sister, where actually the sister was just helping Duke out. After Duke gets knocked out on the playground and the cops arrive, this young girl in a yellow hoodie, looks like a parka actually. Why would they be wearing that? Walks by and is taking photos of Duke, and you see her phone says, "I found him." Duke wakes up in Leslie Tompkins' office. Apparently she is a social worker, not a doctor in this, I presume anyway. Anyway, poor Duke's parents died or went missing during the whole Batman Eternal event. So we don't know for sure if they're alive or dead. So he's looking for them. Anyway, there's a bunch of messages going back and forth between this girl and other people through text. Duke goes to live at a new foster family. Of course, he doesn't stick around. So during the fight at the beginning of the issue, and then this scene where after he leaves the foster family, he's shown to be quite acrobatic and athletic, which, you kind of need if you're going to be a Robin. He gets into some more trouble. This group of people basically are going to start to attack him. And then this group of kids show up, calling themselves Robin. They say, "We are Robin." And then the issue ends. This is the epilogue here. One presumes that the character who is talking here is Alfred, because the epilogue opens up with this bat, or what looks like a bat, but it's actually a bunch of cameras watching the events unfold here. And at the very end, and so we see a bunch of images of what's happening during this fight on the screen, and some of the panels focus on the young Robins that showed up, and they're referred to as the future of Gotham. And then, as the caption says, the future of this city is not the dark walls and cold gray concrete its foundation stands upon. It's a place of color. And then you see the last panel, which is a bunch of red, yellow, and green tunics and coats and whatnot, helmets, and weapons, belts and bats and whatnot. So I guess maybe Alfred is the guy who's gonna be their benefactor, help them through this. I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting, considering how much Alfred in past DC history was opposed to having young people be involved in this war on crime that Batman started. But I still find it interesting if indeed that is him. I don't know who else that could be, but maybe we'll be surprised as to who it actually turns out to be. But I wasn't all that sure. Like I said, I wasn't all that sure what to make of this comic based on what little information I had about it before I read the first issue. But I'm intrigued, and I want to see where this is going. So I'll be around for a little while. Plus, like I said, it's a book with Robin in the title, and I'm kind of predisposed to, if not liking it, giving it more of a chance than perhaps some other book. Speaking of Robin, here is the next book in the series, Robin, Son of Batman, #1. This is by Patrick Gleason on script and pencils. So Patrick Gleason stepping into the writer's shoes doing this book, which is always a mixed bag when that happens, because I mean, artists are the pencilers, the colorists, the inkers. I mean, they are storytellers in their own right. But I've seen artists taking on the scripting duties in the past of books that I've read, and the stories aren't that good. So, like I said, that's why I say it's a mixed bag. However, Patrick Gleason has Damian Wayne's voice down. He's still bringing his A game to his pencils. The art on the book, there's something I'm going to talk about in a minute that now I know that Gleason had a lot to do with the emotional impact of of what happened in the Batman and Robin books, and I probably erroneously credited, just to myself, but credited Peter Tomasi more than I maybe should have based on this. Anyway, who else is involved here? Mick Gray's doing the inks, so Mick Gray is still around for that. He was on Batman and Robin as well. John Calise doing colors. Oh my gosh, Tom Napolitano doing the letters. This guy is busy. So this is all about Robin, the son of Batman, or as I like to say, Robin S.O.B. So Batman is dead, apparently, in at the beginning of this, because it's just Robin by himself. But the book opens with him in Baialia, and looks like one of the man-bat creatures that was in Batman and Robin previously has been captured, and Robin goes there to negotiate. and I put full air quotes around that word with the governing. I don't know if he's a bigwig in town. I don't even know if we know his name. Anyway, he's referred. Damien calls him Old Man. And then punches the guy. Frees the man bat that whom he names Goliath. And then there's a flashback to the Batcave where Damien is doing some training and breaking things all right and left. He stumbles because of the cat. I forgot the cat's name. There's Bat Cow in the background. Anyway, he falls into this hole in the cave, hits the ground, and then you see all these bats flying up in front of the moonlight. And then he looks to his right, and then there's the skeleton of a dead bat. I know, maybe a little too on the nose, but still, just that it's played in silence. This is what I was talking about. This is those little gut punches that we had so many times in Batman and Robin. And like I said, I thought that was Tomasi's doing, but maybe that was more Patrick Gleason. So anyway, story goes on. If you're familiar with the Batman and Robin story, especially the Nobody storyline, the guy that was trying to get Robin to come over to the dark side essentially and join him and become a killer to help take care of things in Gotham. Well, anyway, I think Robin, if I remember correctly, Robin actually ended up killing him. And that started sort of a rift between him and Bruce because of the no killing rule. Well, it turns out that Nobody had a daughter, and now daughter Nobody is coming after Damien. So Robin ends up freeing Goliath. However, the Man-Bat is freaked out and flies up really, really high with Robin, and Robin loses air, oxygen, so he passes out. And then we get this brief dream sequence where Damien is talking to Dick Grayson, who is, his usual jovial self, and then he starts making these comments that turn a little dark, and then Bruce shows up talking about the year of blood, yelling at Damien about it, and then Bruce is killed in this vision. When Damien wakes up, he's back on Al Ghul Island, because that's where Goliath took him. And there's another character there whose name is Ravi, who's kind of the major domo of the place. He's the Alfred of this Al Ghul Island. And again, they talk about the year of blood, and Robin decides that he has a responsibility here to deal with whatever this year of blood thing is about. He refers to the year of atonement is at hand, and he starts now with nobody hot on his heels. And the book ends with, it looks like, in Nanda Parbat, where Talia is now alive. Maybe I missed that somewhere, but last I knew, she was still dead. But she gets attacked by what I think what she says is the Loon Darga, risen from the pit, and then she gets swallowed up by the earth. So that's how Robin, Son of Batman, #1 ends. Wow, that's lots and lots of stuff happening here. Some things I'm not sure about, so I'm not sure if that's intentionally done or if it was just confusing, unintentionally confusing. I haven't decided yet. I think I just need to reread it. Lots of wonderful storytelling here. I'm talking about the art and the words as well. The colors here are beautiful. Lots of reds, lots of darker colors where the mood, where that suits the mood better. This is just a really well done book, just like its predecessor, Batman and Robin, was. So this is probably going to be one of my new favorite books as we get going on it. Brian Hitch returns to the Justice League of America in a book where he is writing and drawing it as well. So you got another Patrick Gleason type situation. Inks are by Daniel Henriquez with Wade von Grabeger and Andrew Curry helping out. Colors are by Alex Sinclair with Jeremy Cox. Chrissy Eliopoulos is doing the letters. So this is, a lot of people talk about Brian Hitch and, widescreen comics and all that stuff. Him returning to the Justice League. It's just real short and brief. It's okay. I'm enjoying it. Not sure that it deserves the praise that it's been getting, I guess. The advanced praise or the hype. That's the better way to put it. The hype that I've been hearing about this book. Anyway, I will admit that the story is kind of a high concept summer blockbuster type film-esque quality to it. It starts off with Superman not being able to save the world. The whole world blows up under his feet, and he gets thrown out into space. But then he's pulled into a portal. Cut to the Daily Planet, where here is Clark Kent. So what just happened there? Turns out that the Superman was invited to this place called the Infinity Corporation, where he talks to this young man after he sees a room full of dead him. All these Supermen dead in piles. Anyway, so turns out that this guy here, what's his name? Vincent. Vincent pulls the Superman that we saw at the opening of the book with the destruction of the planet. He arrives. Superman rushes over to himself, and the dying Superman says, "Don't trust him." And then he dies. Of course, Superman gets a little upset about this. Vincent also is a little upset about it because he's trying to stop whatever this thing is. But he does tell Superman, "We're trying to save your life." Turns out that these stones of forever that we see, they're basically these pillars, these with weird energy pillar type things in this room. They bring the bodies here to the present. So it turns out whatever this catastrophic event is, it happens throughout time, the future, the present, and the past. And so basically what Vincent is trying to convince Superman of doing is basically stay here and don't do anything. If you do that, then whatever happens involving Superman won't happen. Superman basically tells him, I can't hide. If I'm to die, then I will die, but I can't hide and not help people. And Vincent says, "So effing selfless, aren't you, you arrogant bastard?" And Superman says, "I think you need to be very careful." Which I really liked. I liked how Superman was not taking the guy's guff. So he also gets a little testy with Vincent and kind of assaults him, and I didn't like that characterization. Just because Superman's annoyed doesn't mean he's going to, get all in your face and dickish about things. Anyway, Vincent continues, "The needs of the many. Star Trek, Spock, don't you get it? A few more people may die now, but measured against the lives of everybody for all time, you'll kill all of them, everybody, for some extra glory. All you need to do is put your own life ahead of everybody else's for once, and if you can't do that, we're all as good as dead." So that sets up the big mystery, the big challenge of the book. And then we cut to the rest of the Justice League, who has been called to this facility. This is Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, Flash, Batman is there, Cyborg shows up. There is an explosion. Oh, no. So there's this container, and it contains the parasite. And the explosion is him breaking free of this container. The Justice League fights them for many pages. Superman gets the call that he needs to go, and he heads off to help out. During the fight, Hal his ring runs out of energy because it's been siphoned off by the parasite so much that his ring ends up pulling him and Barry into a wormhole to Oa. Diana has disappeared after Superman broke her free of the inside of the parasite. So those three people have disappeared. They do end up taking care of the parasite along with Cyborg. Basically, it's Batman's plan. Cyborg implements it. And at the very end, here's the next big setup already in this story. In a scene reminiscent from Man of Steel, because here's this alien spaceship that arrives in orbit, and a broadcast is sent out that everybody's hearing as well as seeing on their phones and tablets, and I presume their TV screens. It is the great god Ra, and he has come to save Earth. So this is the Kryptonian god. I say Ra. Maybe it's pronounced Rao. I don't know. But anyway, so you get this whole extinction level event at the beginning of the book, and then you get Ra showing up. Now, I have read issue number 2, and it kind of bugged me. What really bugged me about the events of issue number 2 is how quickly and easily Superman accepts this creature as a benevolent entity. And I presume part of it is just a shortcut way to get the plot moving, because if Superman says that this guy is okay, then everybody else should basically fall in line, right? So if we trust Superman, we trust this guy. Of course, we can't end up trusting this guy. Presumably, he's the person that the past or future Superman or whatever, presumably a future Superman, says don't trust him. At first, you think that he's talking about Vincent, but it seems clear that Rao is the bad thing that happens. However, at the end of issue number 2, you get the next big kind of cliffhanger moment, and that is Wonder Woman wakes up, and she is among the broken bits and pieces of Olympus. So presumably Rao had something to do with that. At least that's where my mind goes. But how, why was she there? How'd she get there? What's the significance of this? What's happened to Hal and Barry? We haven't seen them yet. And of course, what is Vincent's game? Because there was a short scene in number 1 where he's talking to his friend / assistant or whatever, and she tells Vincent that he should have told Superman the truth, and he said, we can't do that yet. So something's going on there. So in other words, I guess I like the setup. I'm not too keen on some of the execution of it, but I'm willing to let those nagging thoughts go, or at least put them aside for now, just to be entertained by this high concept Justice League story. I got the Omega Men. I have issues 1 and 2 here. I got it though because of Tom King's involvement. So Tom King has been the co-writer on Grayson, and he also has done a few solo books, solo issues of Grayson, which I loved immensely. So I decided to get this work of his based on his involvement alone. But this book is by him, and Barnaby Bagenda is the artist. Romulo Fajardo is the colorist. Pat Brosseau is the letterer, with Trevor Hutchinson doing the kind of poster-like covers. So the really simple images, 2-tone, well, I guess 3-tone. Well, unless you don't count white as a tone. Kind of a 2-tone poster-like cover image showing, I think that's Tigor. So Omega Men is a group of characters that I am not really that familiar with. I never read the 80s book that was out. I've read a few other books where Omega Men make an appearance, but I was never really into the Omega Men. So this is essentially all kind of brand new material. I knew some of the characters' names, and I kind of knew what their abilities were, if you will. Although it's mostly just that they're aliens, and their physiologies allow them to have quote unquote superpowers compared to us mere mortals. But that's about it. However, this version of the Omega Men, I guess the New 52 version, has them on the run for apparently killing Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. So the first issue has them essentially going to this one planet, and they are trying to steal something. That's basically the plot of this. A lot of the book is told in alien speak without any subtitles, which I found that interesting. So some of the words that the aliens speak resemble, I guess, English enough that they actually say them. Alpha, they're always talking about alpha or referencing alpha, whatever that is. But some of them speak English. So that I found that kind of confusing, because it's the same aliens who are speaking English or what I presume is English, and then their own language. But to be fair though, I guess the scene I'm looking at when I say this about it is they're actually talking to a different species, so I guess that makes sense. But like I said, a lot of the dialogue here is alien speak without any subtitles. So you really have to, you can't rely on the words. So makes me wonder, did Tom King not get paid as much because he's not writing as many words? I don't know. But it was interesting. You still get the gist of the story, even if it does feel a little light. The art here, though, who did I say the artist was? Barnaby Bagenda's art with Fajardo doing the colors. Really, really cool. It has sort of painter-like a paint-like quality to it. There's a splash page with Tigor that just looks awesome in here in number 1. I really dig the art. It kind of reminds me of Fiona Staples to some degree from Saga. Anyway, so it's like I said, the Omega Men are on this planet and they're trying to steal this thing, which they do. And at the very end, there's all these black panels on the last page, and they're talking about this bomb. So I guess that's, if I remember correctly, that's what people reference this thing that they are there to steal. It's the bomb. Well, it turns out the bomb is Kyle Rayner. The lantern lives, it says. And then one of the characters says, "Shh, Lantern, shh, don't worry. We will not hurt you. We are friends." And then issue 2 is basically the Omega Men talking with Kyle, and Primus, the leader of the Omega Men, has essentially conscripted Kyle to join the Omega Men. Kyle was severely hurt, so he's healing, and so he doesn't have much of a choice in the matter. The Omega Men steal a ship from the same planet. They're still on the same planet they were, but they steal this ship from this visiting dignitary, and it's in the shape of the Omega character, roughly. So that's kind of neat, although a little too on the nose. But anyway, there's again the book ends with Kyle dressed up in an Omega Man. Looks like a vest, and so it has the Omega symbol on it, and he's standing there. He has an injury on his throat, almost like it's cut. I was looking here real quick to see if that is something he's recovering from. Yeah, because there's bandages around his neck. So I don't know what happened with Kyle, why he is presumed dead by the universe. I'm glad he's not, actually. But anyway, at the end of the book, it shows him looking in the mirror, and his wound is not healed, and there's blood coming off of it. And so he takes that blood and he draws. He converts the Omega symbol into a lantern symbol of blood, which interesting. So I really like the book so far. I can't pretend that I know what's going on here precisely. There's not enough here for me to decide where the story is going and why. But at the same time, I'm okay with that, because that just makes me more intrigued to find out what's going on, why the Omega Men are doing what they're doing. Why do people think that the Omega Men killed Kyle Rayner? What's Kyle's role in this? Going forward, what happened to him? I don't know if we're going to get into that. I'm sure that happened in the New Guardians book, perhaps, that I did not read all of. So it's Tom King has an interesting voice. I'll just put it that way, and it's a voice that I like so far. So I'm willing to give him a little bit more of a chance to convince me to stay with this book, even though these are characters I don't really have any ties to, but I'm still interested to see where it goes. I mentioned Earth 2 before in talking about Dr. Fate. We have the new Earth 2 book, Earth 2 Society, springing out of the events of Convergence and the end of the previous Earth 2 book, which I really, really loved until the end, where it just became one big war against Darkseid again. But I was really enjoying where the book was going before that. Anyway, out of the events of Convergence, Earth 2 is no more, but they went to a new Earth, an Earth 2, if you will. So that actually makes sense now, calling it Earth 2. Wait, was there? There was a TV series on, I think it was on NBC back in the 80s, mid to late 80s, called Earth 2. Somewhat of a similar concept. Anyway, except without superheroes. So anyway, this is Earth 2 Society. This is by Daniel H. Wilson is the writer. Jorge Jimenez is the artist, with John Rao on colors. Travis Lanham is the letterer. I will start off saying I don't particularly care for this art. It's a little, looks a little too, and I forgive me if I'm using the incorrect terminology. It's a little too anime-esque for my taste. Exaggerated and angular in many ways. I don't know if that's anime-esque, but anyway, not my cup of tea. It's okay, but part of the reason that I wanted to get this was that there's a new Batman, and it wasn't who I thought it was at first. When I saw the preview image of this new Batman character, I thought maybe it was the Earth 2 version of Ted Grant. That is not the case. It's actually Dick Grayson taking up the mantle of Batman, although I'm not entirely sure why exactly, but he did. The story opens up. It's 1 year after Planetfall, after the events of Convergence, essentially, and the cities are the city ships that escaped the destruction of the former Earth 2 have come back and established themselves on this new planet that, you know, you look at the planet, and it has it looks roughly like it used to, which is weird. So I guess this is another dimensional Earth 2, or another dimensional Earth. I'm not clear on this exactly, even though I've read this book a couple times. So it opens up, it says New Gotham, first city of the new Earth 2. Well, that's why I'm confused, because the explanation is actually given in the second issue. This is Terry Sloan, the Earth 2 Terry Sloan, talking about this. Someone points out that it's an Earth twin, and Sloan says this planet has been transformed into a rough copy of Earth. It's habitable and it looks like home, so that explains why the continents look like the old Earth. But the scans of the plants and animals are undeniably alien. So, what is that? How is that going to play out with this alien world that looks like ours? And there's these 12 city-states that have cropped up, New Gotham being one of them. So that's interesting in a sense. I'll come back to that. And also this planet also has two suns, a red one and a yellow one. So, that's going to affect the Kryptonians here. Anyway, back to the plot. So, like I said, it opens up with on New Gotham, Batman is chasing Terry Sloan. And then most of the issue is flashing back to 12 months earlier with the planetfall, the arrival of these city states, or the arrival of these ships onto this new Earth 2, and setting up shop essentially. But Terry Sloan is still a hunted man based on his past sins and crimes against humanity, but Sloan's after the Source Vault, which is, again, this is from issue number 2, but that's issue 1 opened with him being pursued by Batman and other people as well, because he's on his way to get this thing. Anyway, the Source Vault. This is Bruce Wayne's last gift to humanity before he died, a masterpiece of alien technology created with the help of Superman and Wonder Woman. The cube contains the blueprint of every plant and animal we lost when Apocalypse destroyed old Earth. Entire ecosystems. Combined with my Genesis machine, it will terraform this planet, destroying all native life and replacing it with home. So he wants that. It's being protected by the remaining superheroes, the wonders of Earth 2, Huntress, Red Arrow, Supergirl, or Power Girl, if you will. The new Superman. Is Red Tornado part of this? I don't remember if she is. Aqua Woman, and Hawk Girl in the Flash, and Green Lantern. Though he's here, but he's taken on a new mission since the end of Earth 2 and what happened with Convergence. He's now more of a planetary force in a human body, as opposed to Alan Scott that we saw at the beginning of the Earth 2 book. So he's kind of removed from humanity. He's more concerned with saving all life instead of keeping his human connections, which, and on one hand, I find that interesting to see how that plays out. But on the other hand, I'm unsure of how interesting a character he can be if he's constantly being aloof and more godlike, as opposed to a man with these amazing powers. Not quite sure how long I'll stick with this book. Like I said, the art is not my favorite. I keep comparing this book to the old Earth 2 book, which I really enjoyed initially. While I like these characters, they're too wrapped up in the plot of this new world and trying to prevent Sloan from accomplishing his goals. I'm not sure where this book is going, or why should I be reading it. It's just unclear about what direction we're heading with this and why. And not that every book has to do that. Certainly, I'm just saying, for me, it's just not working. Whatever this is, it's not really working yet for me. Finally, I have Constantine the Hellblazer. This is by Ming Doyle and James Tynion IV as writers. Riley Rossmo doing an awesome turn as the artist here. His style fits the tone of this book wonderfully. I really like it. I'll talk a little bit more about what's going on here too. Ivan Placencia is the colorist, and Tom Napolitano doing letters again. God, that guy is busy. The story opens up. John's been in some shenanigans. He's all naked and bloody. Goes in and gets a change of clothes at this clothing store after bewitching the young lady behind the counter. And then one of John's old friends shows up, or at least the ghost of a friend. This is Gaz. And you find out that during the next few pages that John is haunted by all these people that he's encountered in his past. They're all ghosts, but they're his ghosts. He's like his entourage. Gaz is trying to tell him something, but John wants nothing to do with it and tells him to sod off. And then John goes and talks to. Well, he goes into this restaurant for a quick bite or a drink, and he sees the guy behind the bar, this big guy, whose name is Oliver, and John is a bit enamored with him. In his monologue, he's like, "Hello, handsome stranger," which I found interesting because I don't ever remember John being interested in guys, but I have not read the entirety of Hellblazer. Not that that has anything to do with this new version of John Constantine, but I found that kind of refreshing. I like that bit of newness to the character. While he's there talking with the guy and actually having quite a good time, which is again unusual for John. And also kind of refreshing because usually everything is dark and gloomy and bad things are happening around him and to him. Anyway, this demon shows up, Blythe, and convinces him to go to her place of business. It's called the Inferno. John refers to it as an art house theater. Bit of nonsense in Chelsea. Anyway, they shag, and then Blythe tries to get John to help her with exorcising some imps in her place. And then here, and this is where I want to come back to the art. So then there's this 2-page spread. You have to turn the comic sideways, and you got these panels running across the entire horizontal space. And there are 10 levels here, and they're all levels of hell. So you start with the vestibule. Then you go to limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, et cetera, on down to the basement, which is the ninth circle, which is treachery. So you've got Dante's Inferno going on here, and then you get to see all of the clientele and dealing with the basic premise of each floor, which I thought was really kind of cool as they're walking back and forth through these levels. Anyway, it turns out that this thing that Blythe wants John's help with isn't exactly what she said it was, and she basically tries to double cross John, or not double cross him. She tries to get him to do her dirty work for him, and it doesn't quite work out that way. And in typical John Constantine fashion, Blythe ends up going back to hell, and of course John ends up making an enemy of her, because by the time she gets back, if he's not dead, she is an enemy. But the issue ends with the ghost John's ghost showing back up, and Gaz is basically saying that one of the other ghosts that is part of the entourage is gone, ripped apart to dust. So Gaz is very concerned about the fact that these ghosts, these spirits of the dead, are being destroyed. So that sets up the plot of this storyline. So the previous Constantine comic that launched with the New 52, it was okay. I didn't stick with it. I got the first 6 issues. Obviously, it was canceled. I'm kind of surprised that they brought it back so soon. But considering who they got as the artist, and I don't know if Riley Rossmo is going to be on here for any length of time, or if it's just for one story arc or whatever. My vote is that they keep him on as long as possible, because I think it's Rossmo that really makes this book. The story is okay, the whole idea of the ghostly entourage being killed, that's, aside from the trappings, that's, your basic mystery plot for pretty much anything. Bad guys are trying to kill people, so therefore you got to stop the bad guy from killing people. Well, the people just turn out to be ghosts. Anyway, like I said, the art is fantastic. It fits the mood and tone and very well. So I'm really looking forward to reading or seeing more of Constantine, the Hellblazer. And that concludes my first impressions, my look at these new comics from DC Comics. What do you think of these books? I'm sure you're reading at least some of these, right? Let me know what you think of these books, and let me know what you think of what I think of these books. Whether I'm right on the nose or I'm way off base, either way. You can do that by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com, or you can leave comments at the blog longboxreview.com, or you can contact me on Twitter at longboxreview. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.